Hello, everybody, and welcome back to World of Warships Legends. My name is Spartan Elite 43, and tonight we are back in Holland. I know it's been a real long time, but in my tier list video the other day, I ranked the Holland pretty low on the overall tier, and I said the reason was because it was somewhat inaccurate. And that is true, even if everybody wants to argue about it. I understand that it has a 2.0, but it only has 4 guns, guys. Okay? That is a huge, huge problem. Same thing with battleships when you only have 6 guns or whatever. The problem is that the shells split apart a little bit, so any inaccuracy at all feels way worse on a ship like this. But before we get into all that, we got an entire match to show you guys. It's going to be a lot of fun. We are going to have Jerzy Swirsky on here. Of course, we are running Eric Bay to maximize our destroyer concealment, but we also get the option of running William Sims on this build, which gives us more hit points, which you're going to need. Of course, Jerzy's base trait is sea detectability range anyway. So you get to maximize your concealment and add hit points, which is something I think a lot of people overlook with these ships. Because these are very sneaky. 5.2 kilometers is right there with like a full stealth build like Gearing or Daring. And not quite as good as the Shima, not quite as good as Kleber with Go All Out. But it allows you to get up close and personal. And when you consider the fact that I am running a pretty hilarious build, we've got Observant Rage. We've got Look at Me Now, of course, just trying to get that maximum concealment. Again, obviously we're going to have Perceptive because one of the things that I want to do is hunt down destroyers. We don't really get an option to in this game. I only played 2 games tonight. The one you're about to see is the better of the 2. The other one I just played my role. I ended up hunting down a Shima and securing my flank to win the game for the team. But of course we also have Fox Blair, and again this is an oopsie by me. You can tell that I haven't. Most of these builds came before I had the whatchamacallit go, the presets. We didn't have presets back then, so I do apologize. The Fox Flare is not helping me a whole lot considering I don't have radar. I realize this, so I need to set up a second preset, and that's my bad. But Cloudy Days and Smoke on the Water, whatever one you want, is going to be okay. I would probably go with the Smoke on the Water personally. And then, of course, we have Unstoppable. Okay? This just goes to show I don't check my builds beforehand, right? I just get in and play them. But, of course, in the first slot, we have AA Guns Mod 2, which is one of the absolute benefits of this. And I know you guys are going to yell at me. I can already hear it in the comments. But, Spartan, you said it was inaccurate. If you really think it's that inaccurate, why don't you run Aiming Systems Mod 1? And the simple answer is you're right. If I really want to complain about the accuracy, I should run Aiming Systems Mod 1. You're not wrong. However, I run AA modules because getting that extra AA gun firing range when you do get the carriers in the match is hilarious when you're in these ships because they just shred planes. It's kind of funny. So it's my big middle finger to carrier players. That's essentially what it is. We are running Steering Gears Mod 2 because, again, this ship has an awkward gun layout. You're going to use it a lot. It also has terrible torp angles for a destroyer at this tier, so you got to keep that in mind. So you're going to need to turn in this ship. So you could make the option of going for propulsion mod. I personally don't think that's the better option. I think Steering Gears for this one is just to make it that much more responsive, okay? Because you're going to need it. Obviously, we're running Concealment System module, and then we have the the Epic Torpedo Launchers Mod 3, which allows us for every 30,000 damage to get a faster reload on our torpedoes. And that's pretty funny with these, because you can get a pretty fast reload on these. All right. I know there's going to be a lot of people talking about this, but yeah. We are running 86 knot torps. We're not going with the full speed build torpedoes, okay? I know you can. I know you can get them up to like 94 knots, but honestly, is the extra 8 knots really worth? I would say probably not, but that's just me. As you can see, we do get 2 engine boosts, 2 heals, and 2 DAAs, which is nice. I also forgot to switch my flag back, which again shows that I didn't look into the thing. Anyway, so for specs, again, survivability is going to be not great, but better than it would be normally, just due to the fact that we have the ability of running William Sims and having essentially a full consumer build, and that allows us to have 22,800 hit points, which I know there are some destroyers out there that have way more hit points than that, but it is pretty solid. The main guns, again, this is the problem. You have a 2x2 configuration, much like the Friesland, but the difference between the Friesland and this thing is that everything up here can absolutely bully you with similar rates of fire, more guns, and sometimes more hit points. Not to mention the radar gimmicks, what do you call it? Sonar gimmicks. Like, you got all that stuff up here at top tier, right? Um, it's a little bit rough, but it's 120 millimeter 50 caliber guns, which allows you to have all the DACA. You are a sub 2 second reload. Okay, pretty nasty, right? The shell grouping, as you can see, is a solid 2. And again, I mean, I don't know what that necessarily relates to in terms of destroyers. I know 2 is on battleships really good. I don't pay a lot of attention to the shell grouping of destroyers to know if that's average or bad for a destroyer, but given the fact that there are battleships out there with better shell grouping than this, you could make a case for this thing being slightly inaccurate, right? But that being said, you still have the shells that you're going to be firing the most are the HE shells. You're going to be firing 1,750 HE shell damage per shell potential with an 8% chance to set fires. The muzzle velocity is 825 meters per second. Armor penetration is only 20 millimeters, meaning you've got to aim for weak spots, right? And that also ends up being a problem when you're fighting things that other destroyers that may have armor, because there's a good chance that your shells are going to shatter if you're not careful on armor of destroyers, which is not ideal. I think I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure that if you're getting in a fight with certain destroyers have better belt armor than this thing can pin. That being said, if you get into those situations, you do have AP, and the AP is pretty solid as well. So with all of that being said, the main gimmick of this thing is simply the torpedoes, right? You get 2 quintuple launchers that reach out to 15 kilometers and are doing 86 knots. Usually you get one or the other. You usually either get range or you get speed. You rarely get range and speed, and that's where these things come in handy. These things are a nuisance if they get in behind your team, and we're going to showcase that perfectly in this next match. But you can also see that the AA defense on this thing is absurd for a destroyer. We're at a 96 aggregate rating. You can take that or leave it for what it is, but just listen to these numbers. 120 millimeter 50 caliber model 1950 dual purpose main guns. You get 4 of those doing 143 damage per second, reaching out to 6.2 kilometers. Then you have the 57 millimeter 60 caliber SAC model 1950s. You get 2 of those doing just 84 damage per second, but reaching out to 4.8 kilometers. And then the majority of your AA, the 40 millimeter 70 caliber Bofors 1948s. These are a post-war Bofors for shooting down planes. You get 6 of them on this little boat, and they do an average damage of 266 damage per second, firing out to 4.2 kilometers, which again, on battleships and cruisers that have 6 kilometer plus firing range on your AA, if you build into it, that's one thing. But for a destroyer, this is fantastic, right? You love it. It's not a lot of AA, so if you do take any damage, there's a good chance a lot of your AA gets shredded. But especially early in game, it can really hurt enemy planes. But maneuverability, this is another thing. This thing isn't the fastest destroyer in the world, and that's where this thing gets into a little bit of trouble as well. Because it's not got that getaway speed, you do have to keep your engine boost just in case. I use the engine boost in 2 situations. 1, if I need to get away, and 2, if I need to get to a cap quickly. Those are the 2 situations that I use the engine boost, right? But other than that, we have a turning circle of 660 meters, and the rudder shift is down to 3.6 seconds, which is pretty solid. But again, that's why I went with the rudder shift on this particular boat, because of the torp firing angles, because of the fact that you only have 2 guns and you need to get them both on target more often than not, and you want to get up close and personal to deal with enemy destroyers, and you're going to have to dodge those torpedoes. Being able to dodge comes in real handy, and then open water gunboating as well. You'll see some of that in the match coming up. But 5.2 kilometer surface detectability, 3 kilometer by air, 2 is always guaranteed, 2.5 smoke firing penalty. So pretty good smoke firing penalty. Unfortunately, you just don't have your own smoke. Now let's look at the stats that I have in this ship. Win rate, not the greatest. This is one of my worst win rates out of all my destroyers that I played. And again, that ties into what I said. Like, when I rate something lower, it's not because I just have a hatred of the country or whatever. It's just because I don't do very well in that ship. This is a perfect example. I find that this ship in particular struggles to carry matches that other destroyers are fully capable of carrying. Does that make sense? The low damage on the torpedoes, having to rely on damage over time, the guns, again, being relatively I say inaccurate. It's not inaccurate. It's just there isn't enough of them. Does that make sense? So you're not out trading very many destroyers, even in a gunfight, even though you have a really good fire rate out of those 4 guns that you have on your ship. Okay. But again, average damage is actually relatively decent for my destroyers. Again, you guys know I tend to play to win rather than play for absolute damage. Average XP, again, as you'd expect, a little bit low on this one because of the lower win rate. But yeah, average potential damage for a destroyer over 500,000 is pretty solid, I think. Again, just shows you that I don't have a whole lot of help usually. But that being said, here's the other issue with this ship, and this is a big one. It's got all the freeboard, all of it. There's no armor, but that's normal for destroyers. There's a few destroyers that do have armor, but for the most part, the biggest issue is that this thing is ginormous when it comes to sitting out of the water, meaning that the other ships that are shooting at you, they have a giant target to shoot, whereas you might have to like place your shots perfectly in order to do damage. Does it make sense? I hope it does. But with all of that being said, I think it's time to show you guys the nitty-gritty and get to the gameplay. Alrighty, so we're going to be on Riposte, and we are going to show you guys exactly why the Holland is so fun when it gets to play the way that it wants to play. And that is to get the flank and just bully everything that thinks that it's okay to just sit around and do nothing. We all know that that's what a lot of players do, especially in this map where they just kind of clog up in one little spot and then they become an easy target for everything, especially when the torps are doing 86 knots. And so we're going to try to showcase that to the best of our ability today. But unfortunately, we're not going to run into the enemy destroyer, which is a Sharky, which is essentially a Z-52. Now, if I were to get in a fight with that ship, if he has the sonar advantage, like, and I don't really have anything to help, there's a good chance he just outright beats me. But we'll never know. But that being said, we are going to engine boost straight into Alpha because, again, I want to make up the distance. If I wanted to go straight into Bravo, I could have. But I thought, in my mind, what I want to do is win a flank, right off the bat. I don't want a chance going straight into Bravo, running into their enemy destroyer, and dying 30 seconds into the match. I feel like it's a little bit safer if I get out into the open water where I can maneuver a little bit better. And if we can win a flank, then that gives our team the best chance to win this match. Because once you win a flank, the rest of the enemy has to change what they're doing. They can't just sit behind the same islands they've been behind the whole game because eventually your team's going to have that crossfire. Now, what I'm going to want you to pay attention to is the mini-map. There's going to be a couple of things that go weird in this match. One, we've got a suicide cruiser. This man's he does not give a fuck. Okay? And, I mean, I could almost disrespect it unless I think he actually does quite well for the little suicide rush that he tries to pull. The rest of the team, on the other hand, you're going to witness 4 goddamn battleships going to the same island and sitting there for most of the game. It gets kind of ridiculous. But you can see these torp angles are not great. But we're going to drop the first set, and this is something that I do every once in a while. Sometimes I regret it, sometimes I love it, because what it'll do is it allows you to set your torps off at different times, which can lead to better opportunities down the road. So one of the things that you might want to try sometime is just launch one torp tube if you've got 2, or if you got 3 or whatever. Just try to keep at least 1 torp tube in reserve, because you might get better opportunities after you launch the initial one. Like, we all get a little bit impatient. We all want to get that first strike off, right? And it's always so tempting to just launch everything in the same general direction. And I believe we do get a couple of hits here. There's at least one hit on the Preußen. We do get a flood there too, which is huge because that means that if our cruiser over here ends up getting a permafire, then he's going to really be happy about that because it's going to hurt the team. Now you can see I want to get a fight here, but you may or may not notice this, but there's two very accurate battleships with the Preußens, but there's also the Michelangelo right there that is almost certainly a secondary build Michelangelo. I don't want that fight. And then out of nowhere, the Temeraire shows up, and I'm like, yep, that's a really good thing I didn't start shooting there, because it would have been real bad for my health. You got a super HE battleship, you've got two very accurate battleships, and then you've got a secondary, most likely, cruiser with SAP. Like, it's a bad situation, right? Now, I try to split up who I'm aiming at here, because I figured there's a good chance that the new guy doesn't know that I'm here. Well, I mean, he probably knows I'm here, but he doesn't know that I would be targeting him, right? He just probably sees a bunch of these battleships all up in one spot. And then, unfortunately, the problem is the Temeraire, out of all these battleships, isn't the dumbest, okay? He's going to realize that I'm here, or maybe he's just worried about the battleship slapping the out of him. But either way, he makes the perfect turns every single time to avoid all my torpedoes against him, which is, as you could agree, not ideal. But as we push in, you can see that the Preußen is still on fire. Our cruiser is sitting behind an island where he's relatively safe, and between all of our battleships, you can see are all going to the same location, which is not ideal. We're going to try again to reach out and get that Temeraire, thinking, okay, well, maybe the first time was a fluke. The moment I launch these torpedoes, the little turd turns away. Like, you can't make it up, man. It's like, what are the odds? Like, the man was sailing in a straight line, and the moment I launch, he decides to turn. If he turns a little bit sooner, I hold the torps, I send him somewhere else, like into the gap where the smoke screen is and 3 ships sitting in there, right? But the next thing you'll notice is Michelangelo is no longer playing around. He is done with this. Now, he comes out, he's full broadside to my team, and you would expect him to die very quickly. That's not exactly what happens. Our cruiser has lost all of his hit points all of a sudden. And Michelangelo gets some torps off. I believe he hits him here, or maybe he dodged the torps. I don't know. It's hard to tell. But you can see that the cruiser is still alive. The enemy Preußen died. I'm going to launch at the last known of the Michelangelo there. Just try to get some hits, if nothing else. Our cruiser, unfortunately, does go down. And that leaves a Alaska here, too. So we have an Alaska, the defense, and the Michelangelo here, on top of the Temeraire and the Preußen. There's a lot of firepower right here in one little spot. So, again, as much as I would love to have, like, gone up against their destroyer, I can't turn away from this, and this is Michelangelo making it easy. We just had this guy on our team in the last match, and I can't remember if he did really well or not, but he was in a Preußen in the last match, and he was one of the last 2 ships alive. We ended up winning the match. But it is pretty funny that I run into him again, and this time he's just on the receiving end of me being a bully, because there's not much he can do about this. He can try to dodge, but now I've knocked out his engine. You can see his engine's knocked out. I launch a higher, like, further ahead, because I expect the engine to get, like, brought back online, and I figured these torpedoes would hit him if he starts to move forward faster. That was the goal, and yeah, as we try to get a little bit of distance. Remember, we are decently, like, able to hide from this guy. We don't have to go too crazy. But if he's going to make it easy easy on us to be able to hit him with torps, and you can see he dodges those ones narrowly. He didn't get his engine back online fast enough, and then when he did, he kind of turned towards me, which is real unfortunate. I think he only did that because he got lucky. Maybe he has maybe he has a sixth sense after the first one, but any idea that might be the case is about to be disproven. So, as we've taken this cap, the next thing I'm going to think of is I don't need to be here anymore. The enemy the friendly battleships are back in a position they can't really do much more here. So rather than stay here and fight, and you'll see this Michelangelo's about to make one last left turn. He's dodging incoming fire, but he's running straight into my torpedoes, and that's going to be all she wrote. Or at least it would be if he actually died. But again, these torpedoes do almost no damage. But we're not going to let him get away with it. We want to try to finish this man's off. And he starts firing his guns out of anger into the open. And the moment he did, he sees me light up. That has to be frustrating. But you can see those secondaries firing at us. We get the permafire, and then I just quit firing because I figure, permafire, he's dead. I don't need to risk it any longer. But what you're going to see is it takes forever for this ship to go dark. And in that time, we're going to get shot at by the defense, the Alaska, the Preußen, everything going to shoot at us, right? So, not ideal. And then he actually got another shot at us too. But yeah, we get out of there, fortunately. You can see I'm thinking about Preußen, I'm thinking about Alaska. I figured the Alaska might push forward here. So I'm actually aiming these at the Alaska and then hoping the Preußen just stays there. The Preußen actually decides to go forward, which is a smart move. He knows that I'm here. He knows that he's a big, juicy target. And the Alaska, to his credit, also reverses behind the island, and both of them end up safe from these torpedoes, which is, as you can imagine, just heartbreaking for me. But finally, the cavalry arrives, and they're starting to move forward on this flank. So I take a parting gift shot at the Alaska for no reason, and then I start to push towards the Bravo Cap. And you'll see that our Alaska on the right flank is holding pretty well. Like, he's done a good job of staying alive. He's helped capture the base over there. The enemy destroyer hasn't been able to really push forward and accomplish his mission. And despite having 2 battleships over there, he just stands on his head. But here you see I hit the horn on the battleship to let him know I'm crossing in front of him. He actually slows down, so to his credit, I say a thank you. And then we're going to push through and get into the middle cap, help get this base capped. Speaking of good job by the battleship, the friendly Wisconsin actually decides to put himself in a crossfire position, which is fantastic. We don't want everybody to be in the same location. They've done that pretty well all the way up to this point. But him putting himself in this crossfire is actually going to help not only capture the base, which is going to be good XP for him, but it's also going to allow him to help out the Alaska. So we're trying to push across to help with the Alaska. The Alaska asks for support, and the Sharky makes a huge mistake here, gets himself obliterated. And Alaska, well done. Just straight up, well done. If you accomplish nothing else, you've done a fantastic job on your flank. I don't know how good your battleships were, but given the fact that these guys are still very healthy, I'm going to assume your battleships on that right flank were not very good. But you can see that our battleships finally deciding to push up that flank. I mean, they've got broadsides for days, right? These guys are still worried about the destroyer, which I'm not even spotting them anymore, right? I'm gone. But they should realize that, but I don't know if they do or not. But either way, we've got them flanked on the left side. We've got Wisconsin here in a crossfire with the Maine and the Temeraire, and I'm going to be pushing around and trying to help with getting some attention off of these guys from the Alaska and the defense. And the sad part is the moment I decide to shoot at the smoke screen with my torpedoes here, thinking, okay, we know where the defense roughly is, so if we just put these torps right into the defensive smoke screen, we should be able to help get rid of him. The moment I do that, his smoke screen dissipates and he's going to get himself spotted, and then I believe he gets absolutely heated. But you can see Wisconsin getting some great crossfire. Unfortunately, a little late to help out the Alaska, but again, at least he's in a good position now. Even if it wasn't the best at the beginning, but you can see Svetska Razaya gets rid of the defense right there. Waste of torpedoes, unfortunately. But as we push through, we've got the points lead. We've done everything we needed to do in this match. It's a guaranteed win unless our team massively fumbles. And, of course, I'm a destroyer. I'm not going to massively fumble this away, not with this big of a points lead. Even if they kill all of my teammates, I just run away and don't have to worry about nothing. But you can see I'm going to go ahead and get into an open water gunfight with the Alaska. He's got bigger fish to fry right now. He's not worried about me. But you can see, like, he's coated in 32 mils. Like, these shells are just simply not going to pin unless they hit his superstructure. And so we're looking for fires. That's all we're doing. Trying to get fires on this guy. We've already put up 102,000 damage. Preußen goes down. We know that the Maine is still around our right. I'm trying to get away from this island, but we do end up hitting the island. We do get to fire on the Alaska, which is nice. And we're trying to put ourselves in position to attack the Maine here, knowing that, you know, we should be able to win this match on points real soon. But if I can help get rid of this Alaska and then go after the Maine, I might be able to pull off a little bit more damage. We get the insta-perma-fire, which is very nice. And then as he's pushing forward, we're trying to get a double fire here, right? And you can see the only shell that even pins this Alaska anywhere is the ones that hit the superstructure. As long as we hit the superstructure, we'll get some damage. But if we don't hit superstructure, we ain't doing nothing. So the fact that we haven't got the second fire, unfortunately, is not helping. So we're going to switch over to AP now that he's given us a favorable angle, and we're going to try to farm a little bit of damage off of the armor piercing on the broadside of this guy. And you'll see that does a lot better job with all those. Basically, all the AP was pinning. which is something that I think a lot of people sleep on with destroyers in particular. Like, if you get broadsides, do not worry about like firing AP. Shoot AP. Like, your AP is pretty good in most cases in destroyers. So if you get a broadside, use it. Setting fires is great, but getting actual damage is better. But you can see I'm actually a little too passive here. I should have just immediately went for the torps. But I didn't want to give up my broadside knowing that there's a full 10 guns of American armor piercing or high explosive aimed at me. So we go for the fires initially, expecting that I had enough time that I would be able to wait for him to fire and then get my torps. You can see he does a lot of damage, but I was never really worried about it. That's why we stayed skinny. We didn't want to give him more pins than necessary. But the moment that we finally get a chance to torp him, the game ends, unfortunately. Pretty sure we would have got him there. Maybe I would have oopsied the torps, but I think I would have got him with enough. But we end up second on the team. Again, Alaska, fantastic job. 3,100 base XP, just standing on his head up there. Wisconsin, again, fantastic job. Putting himself in a crossfire position late in the match, capturing the base, doing what we got to do. You love to see it. So I hope this kind of puts to rest, like, despite me saying that it's the worst of the legendary tier legendary tier destroyers, I still do okay in the ship. And I still don't think it's bad. Just because I say something is the worst of that set of whatever doesn't mean it's bad. It just means that the rest are better. Same situation when you talk about things like, when I say stuff like the Georgia is the worst American Tier 7 battleship. That's my opinion, but it's also backed up with the fact that, like, it only has 6 guns. All of the other battleships have a heavier broadside than the Georgia does, and there's a lot going for the Georgia, but until recently with the epic artillery plotting room, like, Georgia was just a pain in the back. And I would rather play literally any of the other Tier 7 American battleships over the Georgia. But doesn't mean that the Georgia's bad. It just means that out of the ships that are available, I would rather choose the other ones. But same thing for the Holland. Hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know down in the comments below if you agree, disagree with everything I've said today. And don't forget, like, I don't mind getting into discussions in the comments. If you guys have like a dispute or something, write it in the comments. I'll check it out and we'll have a discussion. Like, I'm like the easiest going guy in the world. I know I bitch and moan a lot in the game, but when it comes to like getting into discussions with people, I don't mind it. So feel free, voice your opinions down there below. Let's keep it civil. And if you like what I'm doing, punch the like button, leave a comment below, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and as always, I will see you in the next video.